Obesity is a choice. What do you have to say about this? Do you feel like this is true? Is it false? Is it partly false? Where do you stand on this?
So I'd say it's false, but I can give a lot more background. So almost no one chooses to be obese, short of sumo wrestlers. And, potential fat fetishists, you like what you like. But a huge fraction of people choose to have unending quantities of highly obesogenic junk food without much concern for the outcome. That is a choice they make, and they make it all the time. In the sense that all the time, I mean they make it every meal, every day, every week, etc. So they're not choosing to be obese because they're not like, if given a button to press, obese or not obese, they're not going to press the obesity button. But if given a button to press like pizza and Doritos and Coke versus, apples and protein bars and broccoli, well, we know they press the junk food button all the time. So while they're not directly choosing obesity, in a sense, they are choosing something that leads down the path of obesity quite reliably. It's like, I guess per the current conflict in Ukraine, perhaps a politically incorrect but yet apt analogy would be, does a leader choose war? No, he chooses invasion. And if the forces were allowed to enter unopposed, there would be no war. Just if you're in charge now, nobody shoots back, that's cool. But, when you invade a sovereign country, generally they fight back. So, yeah, in a sense, you could say, well, you are really choosing war. So, in a sense, people who are choosing to eat tons and tons of junk food and sort of not making the choice to care about it. So they're almost their lack of choice leads to the only thing happening is they actually end up getting quite overweight. And I know that the genesis of this question is perhaps, if I'm guessing correctly, but I've seen this in memes a lot. People on the political right tend to say shit like obesity is a choice. And people on the political left tend to relish in the fact that they're technically wrong, and they are technically wrong. But while they're technically wrong, if you give a little bit of leeway to the spirit of what they're saying, yeah, the vast majority of obese people have a variety of choices they can be making every day, and often they make choices that do not help their cause at all as far as getting less obese. Now, that's a complex discussion because sometimes they make pretty decent choices that most of us make, but due to their lifestyle or due to their genetics, they end up obese anyway, and other people don't. It's always funny to hear critiques about, body fat and obesity from just like skinny assholes that eat like shit all the time. They're like, that people who just have no willpower as they eat more chips. Like, shut the fuck up. Neither do you, man. You just got lucky. Just your hunger signaling is just not that profound. So, there's not like obese people, not all of them have like a profoundly less willpower or something. Although I would say that with regards to restricting food intake, my guess would be that wildly overweight people probably on average have less willpower as it relates to food, which is just a statement of fact. It's not a moral judgment. It's just, this shit is how it is. And I think because we know that about them statistically, we need to meet folks like that where they are with compassion and say, hey, listen, like, I get it. It's fucking hard to eat healthy and fucking blows, but let me try to give you some tools to get a little bit better at what you're doing. And sometimes they care and say, yes, please help. And sometimes they say, what? Fuck you. I'm going to eat Oreos. And then, okay, I tried my best. It's going to happen like that.
I think you're in the right place when you say that, yeah, it is partially, like, it is false because it's not necessarily a choice, but there are things that are impacting that person's lifestyle, that person's choices. And also, like you said, there are other things like hormonal imbalances, genetics, and things that might make things harder for that person to change. And also, like, partially could be lack of education or lack of tools that can help that person to get in a much better place. And sometimes there are things around us or external factors that we might not be able to manage all at once, or like our lifestyle, our external environments, the people we live with, or our financial state, I don't know, things like that that can make things even harder for you to perhaps try to not be obese.
Yeah, definitely. And, some of those things go a long way. Some don't. Some of these assumptions we can make about obesity and the influences there. Is it okay if I'm waxing on this for a while, or do you want to just cut me off and tell me to go to the next question? So I have a little bit more to say, if that's okay.
No, go for it.
Sure. So like, some of the presupposed factors that increase the probability of obesity in a causal mechanism, there's not really much evidence for them, and some of the evidence goes the other way around. So one dead horse I like to beat all the time is the relationship between income and obesity. And people will say that, if you don't have the means to reduce your obesity, if you're not financially wealthy enough, then it's difficult to reduce your obesity. That to me is, at face value, always sounded very strange, because I was under the impression that food costs money, and the more money you have, the more food you can buy. And people say, well, junk food is cheap. And then I think, okay, well, a rich person can buy a lot of junk food then, and a poor person maybe just a little bit, or maybe just some. So this has been studied empirically, and it actually turns out that the causality between obesity and poverty is backwards. So obese people actually tend to get poorer over time. Poor people don't tend to get obese in a causal mechanism. There's at least one review of literature that I've seen that actually addressed this distinct thing. Another one is education. I'm not exactly so sure what you're supposed to be learning in school that teaches you to be leaner. I did school as far as anyone ever has, way postgraduate. I don't know what I didn't know when I was like about 10. Like, if I eat a ton of food that I really like, it tastes really good, and I just eat, I tend to gain weight. And if I just active more and eat the shit that, like I know is healthy, like almost everyone, like fruits and veggies. And if you go do a survey around most of the least educated places in the world, most people can discriminate between relatively healthy and unhealthy food. There's almost nowhere in the world where you're like, hey, here's fries and a shake. This is good for you. Most people are like, no, that's junk. It's okay, here's an apple and a piece of chicken. Good? And they're like, yeah, that's better. And most people know that. But I think the big determining factor, other than, genetics and stuff like that, and just hunger signaling for people who are overfat or not overfat, is how much they care about that sort of thing. A lot of people that are overfat, it's just not their priority to care about their body much, or certainly not enough to change it. On the one hand, we can say, well, that's bad. They should care. Maybe we're right. On the other hand, it's like, well, people have different priorities, and why not live a little bit of the good life and have a bunch of tasty snacks? And like, imagine someone dying at age 65 and they ate all the food they ever wanted and had a great life, and versus someone else dying at 75 and all they did was diet their whole fucking life. I'm not so sure which one of those is better, but I think it's a pretty complex tapestry of things going on, and it's tempting to be like a super right-winger and just judge the fuck out of people and say they're all fucked up and they have low willpower and they just need to nut up, and that's probably wrong. And then there's also the temptation on the left to just like blanket everything, spray it with compassion. It's never anyone's fault. Nothing's ever your fault. And that's not true. Some stuff's your fault. Some stuff's society's fault, and it's a big interplay between them.
I think that is a really great explanation for that particular topic. And there is so much nuance and back and forth on that particular topic that I know it could be a bit sensitive for a lot of people. I know you had a really good thing to say about that.